So if you've been using OpenAI's models or Anthropic models or many other models out there, in most cases, you actually have to pay for these models, which means could be a subscription, or maybe you have to pay for the API inferences that you do, which means either way you have to pay, which is fine because you gain a lot by using these pre-built models and they're on the cloud somewhere. You don't have to pay for anything yourself. So it makes sense. However, some of you may want to actually use models that are open in nature. What does that mean? It means models that you can actually install on your machine and you can use them for free. You can even put them in the cloud on your own servers and use them that way. So that is what we're going to do in this video. In this video, I'm going to show you how to leverage open models, which means you don't have to pay, which gives you a lot of flexibility. Number one, they're free. Number two, you get privacy, which means everything is on your machine, at least somewhere that you know and trust. And you're able to quickly test different models for different use cases. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with Ollama. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about Ollama now. So we're going to specifically do a deep dive on Ollama. We're going to learn what is Ollama, the motivation behind Ollama, if you've never heard of Ollama, but also advantages and disadvantages. I need you to stay till the end of this video because there will be a lot of nuggets that will be dropping as we go along. Okay, Ollama, think of it as an open source tool that allows you to actually test different kind of models. So Ollama is essentially a hub where you can go ahead and connect to different models. These models are open, which means they are there for you to use. You don't have to pay for anything. Okay, so at its core, Ollama has what we call a command line interface. So essentially is a way for us to interface, to connect to all of these models. So the idea is that we are able to manage the installations and everything using the CLI now. So we're able to use the CLI to manage, install, and of course execute all of the large language models that we have access to. Now the question is, what is the problem that Ollama is solving? As you know, the first thing is that imagine that you're creating a RAG system. If you don't know what RAG is, I should have a video that goes thoroughly on RAG. You should go check it out. So essentially RAG is retrieval augmented generation. The idea is that we can have documents and these documents are going to be sort of cut into different pieces and then they go through an embedding model. This embedding model, all it does is to get these chunks of text essentially and transform them into embeddings. So these embeddings are saved somewhere on a vector database. Now, when a query comes in, we go ahead and go through the same process of embedding that query. And then what happens is that the vector database, where all of these embeddings are, is able to do a similarity search. So it goes and finds similar embeddings in a database, a vector database that is. By the way, if you also want to learn about vector databases, I should have a video here. And so now with the query that coming in and then finding the most similar pieces of data, congruent with the query, that is what it's passed along with the prompt and everything into the large language model, and then we get answer. So think of it this way: if you want to build a chatbot that allows you to talk with your own documents, that's when RAG systems are really important, because you can actually have the context from your documents and allow large language models to take all of these pieces of context and answer the question, the query that you may be passing through. That is the gist of it. Okay, and we got a response. Problem here is that, well, if you do that, that means you have to add your own documents. So if you're using applications such as ChatGPT or Anthropic or Claude desktop or web, doesn't matter, we don't know exactly where are these documents being saved. So we have some security issues here, potential. Okay, so if you want more of a privacy, then it will be way better for you to have the large language model or system that you can trust, because you know that the large language model is somewhere that you trust. It makes sense. Okay, so again, the problem that it solves, privacy concerns, as I said, because running LLMs locally provides that peace of mind. And of course, ease of use. So setting up a large language model can be cumbersome. It's very difficult, even though right now, nowadays, things are getting easier, but still it requires a lot of work. With Ollama, it's very easy, as I will show you. Cost efficiency. As I said, if you're using OpenAI's models or Anthropic's model or any closed models, even though it's cheaper nowadays, but it still incurs some fees. You have to pay for it. Latency reduction. it makes sense. If you are dealing with ChatGPT or OpenAI models, that means there is a latency. It takes a little bit of time from when you type a query, and that query has to go through the process I showed you to go and hit that API endpoint, right? So there's latency. But if the model is actually on your computer, then that is way, way easier because the latency is shorter. Well, because you are on your computer, because everything is in one place. So it doesn't need to travel to go hit an API somewhere else. Customization, of course, with having your own models locally, then you have more flexibility of customizing your models, which is something that you may need depending on your use case. Okay, now key features of Ollama. By the way, don't worry, we're gonna go and show you how all of this works. I'm just giving you the overview of Ollama. Key features, well, model management. So you are able to manage all the models that you are using or you're willing or wanting to use, which I'll show you. Also, you have this unified interface, which will show you a unified way to interact with many different kinds of models out there for different use cases. Extensibility, of course, you can extend from the model. Let's say you have a model A that does this something real well. There's things you can do to extend that model so that it's more congruent with what you want to achieve. Performance optimization, as we said, you can optimize depending on the models. There's many things you can do. So because you have this open source tool that sort of works as a hub for many different models, you have a lot of flexibility, which also includes a lot of performance and optimizations. Let's talk about use cases for Ollama. If you're interested in developing, let's say, an application that is AI-based application, it's a real good idea to actually use Ollama models because they're free. You can start testing to see how all of this comes to be, right? Because you want to make sure that you don't spend a lot of money by using these closed models before you even know if this idea is going to work. So testing, it's wonderful in development. So education and research is another one. You can use these models for doing research and also learn about certain subjects. So we have many different kind of models that you can use. And the beauty again here is that all of these models are yours, really, locally. And the secure application, as we said, security is very important because it could be that you're working with very sensitive data and you don't want to put that data somewhere you don't know exactly what they're doing with that information. So that is another use case. If you have applications or you work on something that security is very important, you want to make sure that your data is contained in a place that you know, then Ollama is the best candidate. All right, so this is the part where I ask you for a huge favor. To be able to put together such videos, it takes a lot of work, a lot of research. Although I love doing that, it would mean the world to me if you went ahead and subscribed, if you're not subscribed, but also make sure that you like this video. Just hit that big thumbs up. That way I can see that you appreciate me, and that that will give me the energy that I need to actually keep going, because I don't drink coffee, so I need that. So let's go back now and look at how to get Ollama installed and go from there. So if you go to Google and look for Ollama, this is what you will see. By the way, Ollama is by Facebook or Meta company, so just something for you to know. You can see that Ollama here, there is this llama, and we have models, GitHub, Discord, Docs, and Cloud. So there's a lot of things here. You can go ahead and sign in, but for now, you don't even have to sign in order to get started. So the thing here is that you can go ahead and download. Now, because I'm on Mac, it says here available for Mac OS, Windows, and Linux. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click here. It's going to give me the option of downloading. So you can download from Mac again, Linux, or Windows. Of course, I'm a Mac, of course, it gives me this. So if I go ahead and click, this will go ahead and download for me, and I can go ahead and double click and go ahead into the process of installing. Now, I already have this. I don't need to do that. So for you, go ahead and do that and have that double click if you're on Mac, or do whatever you need to do on Windows, and then to have that installed. So we want the tool itself, the application, installed on our device, in this case on our computer. Go ahead and do that. And once you do that, you can quite see, but you will have on your toolbar at the top here, sorry, I can't see that, you will see the little llama icon. So once you have installed Ollama, you can actually go and open that application, and most likely this is where you're going to be able to see. So they have what I call here a user interface with GUI, which allows you to actually start talking with certain models. Now, you can see here that right away, once you install, it should give you one model at least. Okay, so you can go ahead and choose different models. Okay, if you don't see any models, it's okay. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to open a terminal. I'm going to show you exactly how to pull a model. Okay, it's a large language model, so we can start playing with, and then it's going to be added here. Okay, let's go ahead and do that before we even play with this. All right, so if you open your terminal, and assuming that you have everything set up, you have Ollama set up and installed locally, which was very simple. If you go to terminal and you say Ollama list, this will give you a list of all of the models that you have installed. Now you can see that I've been using Ollama for a while now, and I have one that is about 12 months ago. Wow, that's a long time ago, right? You probably won't have any of this. So if you go list, you're probably going to have one or two or nothing. Okay, so what you want to do is to actually pull a model, because remember, we have Ollama as a tool. Now we are able to pull different models. So if you go back to ollama.com, so I'm going to go to explore models. You can also click here and go to models. That same thing. You can see this is the place where you can see all of these different models. We have embedding models, vision, tools, thinking, and even popular. We can look at the newest models, which is going to show all these newest models here and all of that. Think of this as a marketplace where you can, free marketplace I should say, where you can go and get different models. You can see these different models that you can pull that model and then install and test it out. Say I want to use this one here, large language model and a lot of polls, right? So this is Minimax M2. You can click on that and then it gives you more information about it. Okay, how to readme, efficient model for the agentic era. So this is real good for agent-based applications, and you can go ahead and run like this. Ollama run and like that. You can see here it says cloud. That's another thing we're going to talk about later. That means we can actually pull these from the cloud, but not necessarily pull them. We're actually going to be using them from the cloud locally. Right, but what I'm going to show you is how to get them locally, because as you see here, as I said earlier, I have a few of them that have installed. So I'm going to go ahead and delete a few here. So to delete a model, you can say Ollama, delete, and then I'm going to pass the name of that model. So this is the latest. Let's just go and delete this one, for instance. Paste like that. I think is remove. Let's say Ollama RM, not delete. Let's continue. Okay, deleted that. My bad, it wasn't the full delete. It was RM for remove. So if I go Ollama list again, you can see that I no longer have that one that I had before. Okay, so Ollama list again, and then I'm going to say Ollama RM, and I want to get rid of this one as well. Go like that, and I am done. So Ollama list, and we can see as we do that, we can get rid of that. Let's say I want to go ahead and download locally my own model. Well, to do that, let's go back here. And this is not a good example. Okay, so I'm just going to change this to go to popular. And you can see that we have this one here. So we have different sizes. You can see 20B, 120B. So the bigger the number, the more storage you need to have locally. That's the thing that you have to remember, that these models can be really large in terms of the hardware space, or hard drive space, I should say. And so you have to have space, right? But they have the quantized ones, which means they're smaller, still with the same efficiency and power. So let's find something that is pretty small. Let's say this Qwen 3 here, the most powerful vision language. We have this DeepSeek R1. Okay, let's use this GPT OS. It's an OpenAI's open weight model design for powerful reasoning. Even OpenAI has some models that are available here for free, which is really good. If you click, it's going to give you more information about what it is. Remember the size. The sizes can be pretty large. Okay, if you don't have a lot of space on your hard drive, then make sure you get the one that actually is smaller. So 14 gigabytes, it's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this one, and it gives you exactly what to do. So if you just copy this command, Ollama run GPT OS S, like that, it should pull that model. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. You can see manifest polling, so it's going to go ahead and download that. This may take a little while depending on your network connection. So while the model is being downloaded, you can go ahead and read more about what this is all about. Now, this may seem very cryptic, but essentially what we're doing here, what they're showing us is that we have the quantization. Essentially is how Did they take the model and compressed it a little bit to make it a little bit smaller in terms of the size, but still maintaining the quality and the efficiency and everything else about that model? Okay, we have the parameters is about 20.9b. The more parameters we have, the more efficient, the more powerful the model is. And we have the ARC, GPT OSS, templates, license, and parameters and everything. And you can go ahead and read more about it. So Ollama partners with OpenAI to bring its latest state-of-the-art open weight models to Ollama. Okay, so free for us to use. You can get started and tells us different things, different features. That's really good because it goes back to the idea that you need to learn or look at the features of each model depending on what is it that you want to do. So if this one is more agentic capability, if you're building an application that allows your wants or needs this agentic workflow, so meaning a lot of agents are talking with each other to do stuff, then you know this could be a good candidate for that use case. You have the full channel thought here, gain complete access to models, reasoning process, and all of that. Configurable reasonable effort, so you can say I want a low, medium, or high reasoning effort, right? Fine tunable, you can actually fine tune this to your own use case and all of that. So this is really awesome. It's a good place to come in and read more about that model. That's why we love this. And they tell you exactly how to use it. Of course, remember this is the GUI that I showed you earlier if you want to use that. All right, so after a little while, you can see that everything was installed. Everything was pulled in. Okay, of course, when we are pulling in these models or different things that are coming in, right? You can see the difference here is that we have 13 gigabytes. It was pulling something with this ID here. And then we have about 7.2 kilobytes of other metadata. But all in all, the writing manifest, everything was done. We were able to download everything. And right away, you see success here, which means we can go ahead. We can start sending a message to our model. So I'm going to say, tell me a short story about Ollama. Let's see. So now it's thinking. Remember, this is actually a model, our model that we just downloaded. Now the beauty here, because this model has capabilities of reasoning, I'll show you once this is done. You can see at the top here, it went through this thinking process here. Thinking, and it's showing everything. And then it went ahead and wrote that little story. But remember, I told you that they also come with the actual GUI here, right? Earlier, we have this GUI, which is the Ollama application running on your machine. And with this, because it is all connected, we can also go ahead and click here and find the model. So the model that we just downloaded we should be able to have access to it. It's this one here, GPT OSS. Click here. Now you can see, because of the capability of that model, it gave me this possibility for thinking level. So I can have low, medium, or high. All right, because as you read before, we were reading about what the key features, highlights of this model. It has that. And this GUI here was able to pick that up and say, oh, well, this model here has that capability of thinking. And then I can choose low, medium, or high. I'm going to go low now. And so now I can go ahead, just like you would with ChatGPT, say, why is the sky blue? Okay, so I'm using GPT OSS with this nice GUI here, where allows me to interact with this new model. Very good. So just like that, it was able to run everything and give me the answer. Now, why is this so important? Now, remember, you could do this, of course, with ChatGPT using their models, or with Anthropic, in this case, Claude Desktop or Claude Web. That's totally fine. But remember, those require you to have an account and pay for stuff. Right? And so with this, you can imagine that if you are building something, or you are testing things, or you just want to do some research, educational research, these models are really strong, which means you can download them locally and then use for your heart's content without having to pay for anything. That is the possibilities here, right? So this is just an example. You can go and get other models. Now, I said there are some disadvantages. One being, as you see, some of these models can be large in terms of the space they occupy on your hard drive. And so if you don't have a lot of flexibility, then you probably have to find a smaller model that will fit the description. And also it's using all the computational resources on your computer. But as you see, for things like this, it's really easy to deal with. It's really easy to use. Also, if you want a more structured way of learning AI and become an AI developer, an AI builder, I'm putting together a course which will be ready as soon as I can get it ready, where I go deeper into becoming an AI builder, an AI developer. If you want to be notified when the course is done and you get first dibs right into the course resources and also at a very reduced price, then check the link in the description where you'll find the link to the wait list for this course. Now, we've done a lot. So now we've learned what Ollama is. We know how to use Ollama. We understand that Ollama allows us to pull and connect to different models that are open, so open source models. We don't have to pay for them. We saw that Ollama also gives us this nice GUI, just like ChatGPT, which allows us to essentially talk with these large language models that we have pulled down onto our PC, our computer. Now I'm going to show you something that's really cool. Because the way Ollama is, it's a manager of all these large language models that we pull down. It also allows us to do something really interesting. We can programmatically interact with these models via Ollama. I'm going to show you how. So assuming that you have Python set up and everything is good, here's what you need to do. First, you need to go ahead and say, I'm using UV, right? A manager instead of PEEP. So I'm going to say UV, add Ollama like this. So this will add Ollama dependency. That way I'm able to programmatically do what I'm going to show you here. Okay, so Ollama is all there. So what I'm going to do here is, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and say from Ollama, there we go. I'm going to import chat. And then also from Ollama, I'm going to import the chat response object. So now I can say response, which is going to be a type of chat response, and then we're going to create a chat object here, which will allow me to add the model. In this case, I want the model to be, let's say, Gemma 3, because I have access to that. And then for messages, I'm going to have something to that effect. And let's say for role and system, I'm just going to go comment that out. I'm just going to use the what is the capital of France. So now I'm using Gemma 3. Now remember, I need to make sure that I actually have Gemma 3. So I can say Ollama list. So I can see that I have these models here. So we have Gemma 3 latest, Gemma 3 would do, okay? Or GPT OS latest as such, or any other that you may have. So you need to get the actual name. So I say Gemma 3, it will infer that is the latest. We don't have to add the whole thing. That's what we're doing here. Make sure you have that actual model. So then we have the messages here. So we're creating the actual object, which is going to be sent internally to the large language model and through Ollama. And then we are able to use and chat, in this case, with that model. Okay. So once we have that response here, we can go ahead and print that response, whatever comes out. So I'm going to say print response.content. Actually should be response.message, and then get the content like this. All right, let's go ahead and see how to run this. Test Ollama.py. And so now this is going to actually use Gemma 3 locally and hopefully give us a response. So there we go. The capital of France is Paris. It's a global center and all of that. Do you want to know anything more about France or Paris? Right, we're able to use Gemma 3, the model which is installed locally, to answer certain questions. You can see now the power you have testing wise and leveraging these free tools, free models locally. Now, if you want it, of course, we can just go ahead and change this to GPT. Go back here. Of course, that's another option, GPT OSS, this, and then do the same thing. Go ahead and run, and we should see something, hopefully. Okay, there we go. This was very succinct. The capital of France is Paris, like that. And so there you have it. Now you have different ways to interact with your models. All of this is local. All of this is local. That's what I need to emphasize. Now that we know how to do all these things and we are able to use Ollama to leverage all these models, one thing you may ask is that, okay, we understand that there's benefits to this because you're able to pull these models locally and run with them. Sometimes you don't have the bandwidth, or your computer is not as powerful, because some of these models may require a lot of CPU and GPU and all of that. How do we then do this? How do you make this to work? Okay, you could take some of these models and put somewhere in the cloud, and in the cloud where we have the computational resources for this to work, good GPU, CPU, and all of that, as well as hard drive space. Or Ollama also, they're working on their cloud offering, which allows you to actually infer these models from their cloud, so you don't have to have all the infrastructure locally to use these models. So if you look at this documentation here, if you go to docsollama.com cloud, I should say, so get started and go to cloud like this. This is what you will see. So Ollama's cloud is currently in preview, which means they're still working on it. So Ollama's cloud models are a new kind of model in Ollama that can run without a powerful GPU. So instead, cloud models are automatically offloaded to Ollama's cloud service while offering the same capabilities as local models, making it possible to keep using your local models or tools while running larger models that wouldn't fit on your personal computer. So this is exactly what I just told you before. If you don't have the resources, computational resources on your computer to run these large models sometimes, then you can use cloud models that Ollama offers. So these are the currently supported models that you need, that they offer in the cloud. And this goes back to what I said earlier. Remember when I first opened the tool, Ollama tool, the chat tool, the GUI, you saw that there was the option of looking at all the models, and you saw the call-in cloud. And also when I showed you all of the models in the Ollama website, right? So you notice they all appended with cloud. So these would tell you these are cloud-based models, Ollama models. Okay, so in order to run cloud, first of all, you have to run this Ollama sign in, which means you have to have an account. It's very easy. If you run this, it will give you the website where you can go and create an account, and you should have, if it's all free account. Okay, and once you do that, then you will have to create an API key. So essentially here you can see we have also CLI way of running this model. You can say Ollama run and then do this, and you go back here. If I go back here, you can see again, you can see all of these guys here with this cloud. That means these are clouds. So I can go ahead and say I want to get this cloud here. Click. Says requires Ollama account. I'm going to go ahead and sign in. I'm going to go ahead and connect because I already have everything signed in. I'm going to open Ollama. So now you can see I'm using the Ollama 120B billions, right, parameters cloud. This is really large, but I now have the power of the largest GPT OS parameter wise. It's really large, and I don't have the burden of having it locally. So I can say, tell me why the sky is blue. So it's going to go ahead and it's using this GPT OS, and look how fast this is. Incredible. Very nice. Now going back here, of course, you can go to Python. They tell you exactly how to do use that, and notice that you have to have a client and you pass the actual name of the cloud model just like this. Okay, very simple. So also you can use an API, so it allows you to authenticate creating an API key. So if you right click here, open a new tab, this will take you to your account, and if you go to keys here, I already have some keys. You can go and say add a key, click, give it a name, and then generate the API key. That would be the key that you'll be using to add into your project, so you can actually start using all of that as an API, as an endpoint, Ollama's endpoint. So essentially you'll have the same thing. You can use curl for that, or if you want to use Python, you have to do the same thing. Install all of that, and then notice that now using Ollama client, you'll have to pass the headers, authorization, bearer, and pass that Ollama API key. And then you do the same thing as that before, passing the messages with role and the content. Okay, so there we go, folks. This is the end of this video. I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. But most importantly, hit that thumbs up. That way it gives me energy to continue to make content such as like this. Thank you so much for your time. I am so appreciative of your time. If you were able to get to the end of this video, kudos to you. That means you are a winner. And well, till next time, be well.